Welcome to Two Idiots, One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
And Bailey, before we get to talking about this today, I just want to talk to you about something.
What you got?
So it's no secret that I live in an apartment complex, right?
Is that what this is?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, I thought it was just like a group home.
Yeah, I live in a group home, dick. But no. So the other day, I was with my buddy, right? And he likes to drive everywhere. I'm not opposed to it because I don't really like to drive. So that's fine by me. And we're pulling out of the parking lot, okay?
Pulling out?
Yes, we were pulling out of the parking lot. And as we were doing it, I don't want to call it a child because I don't think that it was a child, but like gremlin thing that may or may not have been a child jumps out in the middle of the road.
When you say gremlin thing that may or not have been a child, are you talking like the query style like monster little things that could be children but are probably actually monsters, or are you talking like a scary looking kid?
I mean, I'm talking like a kid that had a death wish.
So a scary looking kid?
No, it wasn't a scary looking kid. It was just some fat kid.
Oh, okay.
But he like jumps out and has a mask on, and he just stands there.
You guys didn't Murray him, did you?
We did not murray him, no, but we paused and we looked at him because we're in the middle of the road. He's in the middle of the road, and he just looks at us. So then we do the natural thing, and we start trying to drive on the left side of the road to go past him because he's not moving for some reason. Then the kid decides to move and jump in front of the car. So we stop.
As one should.
Pull back, try to go around the right. Kid does the same thing. So then we just lay on the fucking horn because it's like, I don't know what you're doing, kid. Do you have a death wish or something? So we're just laying on the horn, and then I guess it spooks the kid. So then he runs off, and we're just looking at each other going, what the fuck just happened?
Right. I would have been really confused as well.
Well, it's not the first time because this kid does stuff. The other day I was coming home from work, and I was taking a moment just sit in my car and gather my thoughts and leave work in the car before I come inside, my little tradition.
Yeah, I've noticed you do spend a lot of time after we get to our destinations just sitting in your car hanging out.
Yeah, it's because I like to just leave everything in there. But what happened was I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden this kid has a bag of Doritos and a can of Pringles, and is carrying the Pringles in one hand, the bag of the Doritos in the other hand, and he's eating them while he's running out of his door. And he runs across the street to the other apartment complex, and his dad comes out, and I'm sitting in front of their apartment so I can, witness the whole thing. And his dad's like, where are you going? Yelling at him. And he goes, I'm going over to a friend's house. And he goes, no, you're not. Come back here. So then the kid's like, no, and starts running and eating Doritos. And the dad's yelling at him, telling him basically, I'm going to bust your ass when you get back here. Hurry up and get over here. And then the kid starts sobbing and comes back. And as he's going, takes the mirror of their car and then smacks it. He doesn't break it or anything, but he smacks it coming back. So then his dad just blows up on him.
So that's kind of like what Tallahassee does in the Zombieland movies when he kicks the car mirrors?
Yes, that's literally what he does in Zombieland 2, except this kid didn't break it. So, but I was just very confused. I was like, I don't know what the deal is with this kid.
Yeah, I would have been really confused too.
I guess there are certain situations that kids get themselves into that you're just like, why? Why did you get yourself into this situation?
I feel that kind of like in today's movie when children cause the end of the world, essentially.
Oh, you mean the movie 28 Weeks Later?
Yeah.
Which is the sequel to 28 Days Later? 28 Days Later was a good movie. 28 Weeks Later is directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo and is written by Rowan Joffre, Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, E.L. Lavigne, and Jesus Olmo. And I butchered all of those, and I apologize, and I am extremely sorry. I am very sorry. And I'm also really sorry because I would like to go on the record and state that in the last episode of 28 Days Later, I mentioned that the virus that the monkeys have, the rage virus, is based off of AIDS. It is actually Ebola. I was wrong.
It happens. It's an honest mistake.
I wrote it down and I guess just didn't look at it. So, but yes, it's Ebola because it makes your eyes red and comes from monkeys, supposedly. So,
yeah, I mean, it's an honest mistake.
Well, and I also just wanted to throw this in here since we didn't do it in the last episode. The song at the very end that we were talking about that we really liked is called In the House in a Heartbeat by John Murphy,
Okay.
which ironically plays at the beginning of this movie. But before we get into it, Bailey, what is your rating?
So I'm pretty sure I gave 28 Days Later a 4 or a 4.5 maybe. And I'm going to give 28 Weeks Later a 4.5. I thought this one was really good as well. Direction-wise, like directorial choices with like the shots and stuff don't appear as good as like 28 Days Later. But I really enjoyed the story of this more. It felt like it was a more grand scheme instead of like isolated to an individual group's experiences. And this seems to be more like a localized society's experience, and I thought that was like more interesting in general.
Okay, I can understand where you're coming from with that. I looked up and I just wanted to know that I couldn't find it on RogerEbert.com. So I would say it's probably the same as the last one if I had to take a wild guess. But I'm gonna rate it. I gave the other one a 5. I think this one's a 4. I didn't think that it was at the same level as the other one. I thought there were a few issues, like there were too many characters. But that's something that we'll get into later. But yeah, I'd say a solid 4 out of 5. Not 28 Days Later, but it's not a bad sequel by any means. And ironically, I saw this movie before I watched 28 Days Later for the first time. So I thought this movie was 28 Days Later for a very long time.
Honest mistake.
Well, until someone pointed out that Cillian Murphy was in the first one, and I was like, no, he's not. That's not the main guy. That's not David. No, it's not, because you're watching the sequel, dumbass.
Yeah.
So, but I do have something written down for the 5-sentence summary.
All right, hit me with it.
All right, so this one for the 5-sentence summary, I did practice because you practiced for the one last week. So, run to the hills. America, fuck yeah. Shot through the heart. This girl is on fire. If I could escape and recreate a place that's my own world.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. I was just watching those and I was like, I wonder if I can do the whole thing with song lyrics.
Yeah, no, you did a pretty good job.
The answer is yes, I can. Although I would have liked, this boy is on fire, but
Yeah, I mean, you can't always get what you want.
can't always get what you want, so I can't remember the rest of that. But yeah, what would your 5-sentence summary be?
So I don't really have one for this one. I didn't practice because I assumed you were going to get it. But if I had to do one, I would say, Farmhouse Massacre.
That's good.
America, fuck yeah.
America, fuck yeah.
Fuck these kids.
Fuck these kids. Okay.
Hell Breaks Loose. And World Ends. Good game.
Okay, yeah, I can go with that. That was good.
Yeah, I liked it.
I liked it too. So you want to just jump straight into the things that we liked and didn't like about it?
Absolutely. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I'll start with the opening scene because much like the first movie, the second movie has a very strong opening scene that I really enjoyed, and the score, In the House in a Heartbeat is playing, which is just nice, like chef's kiss.
Oh yeah.
I will say though, I think there were too many people in the farmhouse.
I mean, there were the 2 old people who owned it, the 3 friends or the 3 other people, and then the husband and wife, and then the small child.
Yeah, the small child randomly comes.
Yeah.
Which that one dude whose name I don't remember because it's not important because he dies was like a dickhead.
Which one?
The one where they're talking about the blonde girl's boyfriend not coming back at dinner, and he's like, he's just dead.
I think
you need to accept it.
I think that was Jacob.
Jacob was his name?
It was the same individual who was out at the boat when...
Yes.
Yeah, that was Jacob.
Okay. So that scene is... And one thing that didn't really make sense to me was why the zombie just all of a sudden, was able to punch through the boards. Because, I mean, I don't think that it would be that hard because those boards were pretty thick, Yeah. So I think it'd be kind of hard to punch through them. But when the zombie punches through and grabs the girl and then just starts biting, And I was like, that's it. That's the moment that this whole thing kicks off. And that reminded me a lot of the zombie attack scenes from the first movie. I feel like it was shot stylistically the same way.
That's actually something I was gonna say. So a majority of this movie is clear that Danny Boyle's not directing it,
Mm-hmm.
but in almost every like quote unquote action scene, the way they use like quick cuts and like obscure camera angles and everything feels very Danny Boyle-esque.
Do you think that's because Danny Boyle and Alex Garland were the executive producers for the movie?
100%. I think that unlike some sequels, especially sequels done by different directors and writing teams,
Mm-hmm.
don't honor the like intent of the original.
Right.
And I feel like this movie not only honored the original intent, but expanded on it in a really, really good and pleasant, or pleasant's not the right word, in a very good and interesting way. Because I wouldn't call this movie pleasant.
No, but that's what I like about it, because the movie is not pleasant and it's
No.
not supposed to be pleasant. It's supposed to be a very uncomfortable movie at times, and I mean, I think that zombie movies are supposed to be uncomfortable at times too, especially if there's social commentaries.
Which this one certainly is.
Oh yeah, which I'll let you talk about that one later on if you want to. But what scene do you got for me?
So the next scene that I want to talk about beyond the opening scene, which I really liked, including the part at the end when I can't remember the individual's name.
Oh, I wrote it down. His name is Dawn.
Dawn, yes.
Donald.
So when Dawn was leaving on the boat, I thought that was a really interesting scene, especially when it shows him looking back into the house that he fled.
With
and
his wife
is still alive in there.
banging on the window.
Which I was going to say this during the review, but I didn't quite think about it in time. But the trailer for this movie is kind of like spoiler-esque. So if you haven't seen it and you intend on watching it, and we haven't said anything at this point that's like super spoily,
No.
I would recommend if you watch this movie, don't watch the trailer first, especially if you hear us talk about it, because then it's like super spoily.
Right. Which should be obvious, but I think that scene is very powerful.
Yeah, that's one of the highest emotional scenes for me in the movie up until everything gets fucking insane.
Right, because that one I looked at and I was like, well, he has the option to save her because she goes back for the kid.
Yeah, I mean,
And he's like, no. But that sets up his whole character for the rest of the movie is basically, fuck that kid, we need to leave. Like, who cares? Like, he didn't even want to open the door for the kid. She's the one that opened the door to let him in because she's like, it's just a child. Like, we have to let him in. And then when they all get separated, because the infected are attacking and everybody's dying, then her and the boy get locked or trapped in the corner because he's in the closet hiding. And then, she's like, Dan, help us. Or Don, not Dan, help us. And he just goes, no. And then closes the door, locks it, and jumps out the window. And the scene where he's running, like sprinting full on towards the boat, and you just see all the infected coming over the hill looking at him, and he turns and looks at the window, and she's banging on it saying, help me, and he looks like he's about to cry, but he just keeps running, and then he turns back again and she's gone from the window. Beautiful.
yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. But the next scene I want to talk about isn't really a scene, but it's like about 13 minutes into the movie, when you see the soldiers on the rooftops looking at the building.
So before we get to that, I do want to say one thing. When the title cards are popping up, one thing I wrote down is that 5 weeks was exactly how long it took to kill all the infected from starvation.
5 weeks?
Yeah, it says 5 weeks. Like 5 weeks later, after the initial infection. So after the 28 days, it took 5 additional weeks for the all of them to die. The last infected person to die of starvation, which was a callback to the first movie, where Major West was trying to figure out how long it would take. So that's your answer, 5 weeks.
Yep.
But anyway, continue. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. So a funny scene that I really want to talk about is the soldiers when they're standing on the rooftops looking at the Sector 1 building or District 1 building with all of the people that have already lived there, the 1,500 residents or 15,000 residents.
Yes.
So during that, they make a scene about a guy on, I want to say it's the third story, jerking off.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, it's the same time as yesterday. That's super funny to me because when I was in the Army and we were like downrange and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
we had like a lot of like surveillance and stuff.
Right.
We often saw like local nationals fucking goats and stuff. And we always called our buddies over to laugh about it.
That's so fucked up.
Like, so I really like that scene as like as a soldier or historically a soldier because like that is 100% what would happen.
That's funny. I'm glad you had insight on that one because I was wondering if that was an actual military thing or if that was just a movie.
No, that is 100% like something that they'd point out. Maybe not so much over the radios because they were saying it over the radios and generally that's not like something you would say over the radio.
Okay.
But you would definitely like find a way to let your battle buddy know, hey, there's something funny occurring right here. You should look.
Look at this guy jerking off.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the reason that the soldiers are there is because we learn that Britain was only infected.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody else was not. It had not spread worldwide. So,
Which is why America Fuck Yeah was relevant because basically it's the U.S. Army coming in to, I'm very loosely saying this, quote unquote, save the day.
yes, it is very obvious that the day has already been saved. They are just containing everything, making sure that it all goes back to normal. There are no fuck ups. Nobody's going to get infected again. And if it happens, code red. Mountain Dew.
Like Columbus drinks in Zombieland.
Yes, I'm glad you got that reference. But anyway, the one next scene that I want to talk about is when again. So I'll do two scenes. The first one that I'm going to talk about that I think is very important is when Don lies to his kids about his mom or their mom.
I would argue that he didn't lie.
No, he did because he says she died.
I mean, he is under the impression she's dead. I would have been under the impression she was dead too. Had I not seen the trailer, which spoiled it for me, I would have 100% been like, oh, she's probably dead because the house she was in had dozens of zombies in it. And
Right.
I watched her get, like, grabbed by zombies.
But he didn't.
I mean, he basically did.
He did. He didn't see that, but he also says that he tried to save her.
You know, he lied about that, but I would argue that
He paints himself to be the good person in the situation, like he did everything that he could to try to save their mom. But in reality, he was like, fuck you and that kid.
I mean, I would argue that had she died, she killed herself because she could have tried to escape with him and she decided not to.
Decided not to do that.
So, I mean, yeah, I guess he kind of lied. But, I mean, he said exactly what I would have said, regardless of how fucked up it sounds. He didn't do what I would have done.
Right.
But what he said is exactly what I would have said because, like, you don't want your kids to think that she might be alive when you know for almost certain that she's dead.
Because you saw it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think that his character was meant to, I don't think it was meant for him to be, like, intentionally misleading and lying in a malignant way, in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was more of, like, trying to put his kids at ease.
I think that it was that, but he was lying about being a hero again. Like that's the part that got me is that he's intentionally lying to his kids about this. You know, saying that I was trying to be a hero, but there was nothing that I could do. Because I think that also just paints more of a picture of how he is. Because I mean, he's lying to his own kids about that, and he's upset, obviously. But he's upset not that she died, that he couldn't save her or did not save her, I should say, because he probably could have.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I'm 100% confident that had he not just left her, he would have died.
Okay.
Especially since, you know, as we find out later, she's essentially immune.
Right, because of her different colored eyes, which they make reference to the kid,
Yeah,
whose name is Andy.
Yeah, kind of like Chucky.
Kind of like Chucky.
Child's Play.
Oh, I thought it was Chuck E. Cheese. But no, after that, I do think that the next important scene is when they leave.
No, yeah.
Because that basically sets up the entire rest of the movie. But when Jeremy Renner's character Doyle is like watching them through the scope of the sniper rifle, saying that, you know,
Two puppies are out.
Two puppies are out.
Or I think he says strays initially.
2 strays. Yeah, and then he goes, are they dogs or pups? And he goes, pups.
Yeah.
So, But the whole reason they do that is because Andy has a nightmare that he can't remember what his mom's face looks like, which was weird and creepy. That whole nightmare sequence. And then the one thing I thought that was super ironic about this is they go to find a picture of their mom and then come back with a real mom.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of funny. But that scene was brutal when they were washing her.
Well, so before we get there, I want to talk about their trip.
Mm-hmm.
So when they stop at the pizza place to get the moped that they
Yes.
used to ride, I thought it was really interesting how fearless. I want to say her name was Hannah, or I could totally be like
It is Scarlett.
Scarlett. I thought Scarlett was the doctor.
You're right. It was Tammy.
Tammy. I don't know why I wanted to say Hannah,
Yeah,
but
it was Dawn, Tammy, Andy, Doyle, Alice, Scarlett, Flynn. Yeah.
word. Like I said, unsure why I thought it was Hannah. But when Tammy goes into the
You can call her Tam Tam.
pizzeria
Mm-hmm.
and sees the the body,
Mm-hmm.
it's super like I thought it was a really powerful image that she was still like thinking about safety, and because she found Andy a helmet.
That was by him. It
Yeah,
wasn't on him, but it was by him.
right. But she finds her little brother a helmet to ensure he's safe, and she's like brave enough to like mess with the corpse to find the keys. Like I think that sets her character up as like having immense bravery and like caring about the safety of her brother.
Which will play a big part later
Yeah.
in the movie. But yes, I do agree that this does set her up as like the protector.
Yeah, caretaker, protector,
Yeah.
defender, and someone who's willing to be brave and potentially risk herself to save her brother.
Right. Which
Or I guess this wasn't saving, but this was to ensuring his safety by getting him a helmet.
which you could argue is saving him.
Well-
And it also sets her up for the rest of the movie because her parents weren't really that way.
No, their parents. I mean, I don't know about her mom. Her mom seemed like she was probably a decent lady before.
Before she got infected.
Well, I mean, I think she was probably a decent lady afterwards. She was just terrified, and I would guess, which I obviously don't know, but I would imagine that she was under the impression she was hallucinating when Andy showed up at the house, and she was hiding up there, and she like scared the shit out of him.
Yeah, because she grabs him like real tight and almost to the point of like hurting him
Yeah,
because of that. So
yeah, and I would almost wager it's because she was under the impression he wasn't real because 5 months alone, because it's been at this point in the movie when repopulation started, it's been 5 months since the last zombie allegedly died.
which was 5 weeks
After
after
Yeah.
the initial 28.
Right, but this is 5 months later, so that means she's likely been
She's been on
hiding
her own
there
for-
for 5 months.
Yeah, she's been on her own for 6 at least.
And the like when he went up there, you could see like cans of food that had opened and were just full of maggots,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like a real gross, dirty place to live, which to me indicates that she's probably lost her mind. She's probably having like sanity problems. So I wouldn't say that she's not a good mom at this point. I would say that she's lost her fucking mind.
Well, I don't think she's like lost her mind because of what she does.
Well, I mean, not entirely lost it, but she's not
She's not completely sane.
exactly.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying she's like become a hostile entity because she has no humanity left. That's not what I'm trying to like
Right.
get at.
No, I get what you're saying. But they kind of treat her like a dog with the way they wash her and then strap her down and everything, telling her that this is just standard protocol. We didn't think.
There were
There
survivors left.
Yeah, and we do this for every survivor, so it's not just you. This is just a safety precaution. And then when she figures out, when she tests her blood and realizes that it is, in fact, tainted, that was good. And then Idris Elba is like, fuck her. You're gonna, where Scarlett wants to be like, can we, like, learn about her? She holds, obviously, the key to a cure. And Idris Elba's like, nah, fuck her. You can do it on a corpse. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
She needs to die.
I mean, that would have been a lot better for safety reasons.
Yes, for safety reasons, obviously, but not for experimental issues.
Yeah.
You want to find a cure. And that was what she wanted more than anything.
Yeah. She had literally lost her life in the pursuit of saving the kids in order to
Find that cure.
potentially have a cure/vaccine.
Right. What was the scene you want to talk about?
So the next scene that I want to talk about, and we're almost there, is the scene where Dawn rolls in. Because so Dawn explains to his kids earlier that he's like a quote unquote big deal,
Yes.
and he has all access to every area.
And he did like the biggest dick thing in the world when his daughter Tammy was like, you take care of everybody, you don't run it. And then he just stops the door and traps them inside and goes, I run it. Well, that was like, showing off your big fat dick.
I mean, I think that it's just. See, I don't know. I'm seeing this from a different perspective than you are.
Right, which is what I like.
Because I feel like him doing that wasn't him being an asshole. It's him, like, trying to impress his kids. He's trying to be a good dad and, like, lighten it up and be like, oh, well, look, see, I can control the spinny thing.
I can control it all with a click of a button because emergency shutdown. Oh, you want to get out? Boop, scan the card. Here you go. Get on out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he was, like, doing that to be a dick. I think he was doing it because he thought it would be, like, funny for the kids.
Which it wasn't. The kids did not look amused and looked kind of generally terrified, but that's not the point. They just went through like a zombie apocalypse, and you're going to do that.
Right, but I mean, you know what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah, that he's a dick. I get it.
I don't think he's a dick. I don't think he's meant to be a dick.
It's okay. But anyway, you're saying something about him having access to everywhere?
Yeah, so earlier in the movie it explains that he has 100% access to everything.
Because he runs it.
He uses his access to go into the room where his wife is.
Where Alice is?
I mean,
that's his wife's name. I just like to call them by their names. It doesn't really matter because she's going to die, but that's not the point.
So he goes into the room where Alice is and kisses her and immediately changes and tears her up, and that was super cool.
So that makes me think that they retain a little bit of humanity because he was mad at her. Like he was mad with her that she kind of came back and did not die. And you can see him like turn and look at her. And the way that he kills her is not the way that a normal infected kills someone. Like he, beats her and then gouges out her eyes and then bites her on the neck. Like when he kills her, he really goes in for it. And that's something that I believe is because he had resentment for her. Because it was like, now you're going to tell everybody that I'm a coward. So I need to kill you because you should have died. I don't think that he was actually happy to see her.
I mean, I think he was, or he wouldn't have kissed her.
I mean, I think that he was doing that one thing where you kiss them and then you put the pillow over their face.
I really don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he does.
I mean, not intentionally. It's because he gets infected.
Well, and she was mad at him, obviously. Like, she still hated and resented him because she knew, I feel like she knew what would happen.
I don't think she did. Because she looks genuinely terrified when he starts to change. I don't think she knew she was a carrier of the infection.
See, there's no way because there's a bite mark.
Right. So
she would have to know.
She would have to know that she got bit, but I don't think she knows that she's infected because she also hugs her kid. And do you think that if she thought she could get her kid infected that she would have like hugged him? Or do you think she would have reacted like her kid reacted, like Andy reacted when he got bit, where he was like, oh, fuck off, Tammy?
Well, I mean, that could be it, but she also, you can see that she's fighting off urges because of like when she grabs him. In my mind, when she grabs him and starts like squeezing him, that's because she's been infected and it's there, but it's not like controlling her,
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think that the reason she grabbed him is because temporary insanity from being alone for 5 months, and she thinks he's an hallucination.
Well, yeah, but like when she squeezes, like when she really like grabs him and starts squeezing him, and he goes, "You're hurting me," and tries to get away. I don't think that. I think that's because the rage is inside of her, and it comes out in like little small doses like that, but not enough to really consume her and cause her to rip him apart. Because I feel like that would be something that you would do if you were infected with the rage virus.
I mean, I agree, but I think that when Scarlett said that Alice she was a carrier, but she wasn't showing symptoms, I don't think she would have said she's not showing symptoms if she was suppressing her symptoms. I mean,
that's fair. But it could also be that she needed time to study her and she just got it wrong.
Yep, that's also possible.
Yeah. I don't know. That's what I like about this movie is that there's a lot of different avenues that you can go with it. Again, I don't like there were... It feels like a generic zombie movie sometimes, though.
No, I mean, I agree with that.
Anyway, all hell breaks loose, and then he gets out and kills everybody.
Pretty much.
Then we get to a code red, and everybody's panicking, and Idris Elba says, "Fucking kill them all. Who cares?" And everybody gets out of there. And I'll say, did you want to talk about the scene
I don't know specifically which scene you're talking about.
where they're running out and it's just mass confusion, and everybody, whether they're infected or not, is getting mowed down in the streets?
Do you not want to talk about when Andy meets his dad when he's in the containment room?
I thought that was after this because I thought they were
The
or like during this.
that was before this because all of the people that were running through the streets were not hurdled,
Oh
herded
yeah,
into
you're
the
right.
containment room.
You're right because he meets his. I'll let you talk about when he meets his dad.
So after the infection is like known to be out, like it's shown like Dawn going through and killing various soldiers and stuff, and a code red is announced, and then the soldiers are basically rounding up everyone from District 1 and putting them in a containment room.
Mm-hmm.
And this scene actually contains a really cool moment where a zombie gets his head shot, and the way it's angled is it like blows all over Andy, and it's super cool.
Yes.
Like that was probably my favorite kill in this movie, other than one that happens during the when all the zombies are running out.
I'm pretty confident I know which one it is because it's probably my favorite.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll
Anyway,
see when we get
continue.
there. But they all get hurtled into this room. The power gets turned off. They're locked in. And Andy goes to the back where there aren't as many people, and he hears like a banging, and he goes to the door, and it's his dad.
Who is zombified?
Yeah, zombified dad. And he opens the door and just fucking starts destroying everything, and it makes the people panic so much that they're able to burst through the doors that were locked, which leads into the scene that Taylor was just talking about where everyone is running out. And the initial order given by the commander is, hey, kill people that are clearly infected, and then maybe 2 minutes later it's kill everybody. If it moves, it's dead.
Right. It doesn't matter.
And during this scene is actually when my favorite kill happens.
No, it's not. Okay. Continue. This is not what we're talking about.
What do you mean?
This is not my favorite kill, but go ahead.
So my favorite kill is there's a soldier who's a zombie and he's on the ground level. And it's during the montage.
Mm-hmm.
And the soldier's wearing a helmet and he gets shot in the head because it's after the all good is given to like kill everything.
Yes.
And I really like this because most people who are in the army know that the helmet's like it has to be a pretty small round to actually be beneficial for gunfire.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's, to me, I laughed like it's a super dark scene, super hard to watch because it's a bunch of soldiers killing people and zombies. But when this happened, I was like, ooh, that was funny. And I laughed out loud because when I was in, I was always like, oh, if I was getting shot at, this helmet wouldn't do anything.
Right.
And it just like solidifies that. So I was like, oh, that's my favorite.
That one was?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was not my favorite at all. For obvious reasons, because I don't think I knew that, but that's okay. But yeah, no, that whole scene was really impactful, especially when Doyle decides like he's not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, he basically sees Andy and then runs down to save him.
Which Scarlett and Tammy get away because it was Scarlett, Tammy, and Andy, and then they got separated, which was a big issue, and that's when all this happened. But they all meet each other in like a basement warehouse type thing with a bunch of people. And I thought the funny moment was when Scarlett and Doyle meet each other and they're like, well, why aren't you at your post? And they go, well, why aren't you?
Right.
So I thought that was kind of funny. I think the next thing that I have is when they bomb the city.
Yeah, the firebomb scene was the next thing I have.
Because that was, I mean, you could make the argument. I thought the sniper scene was cool up until that point because they're trying to get out because Doyle has gotten word from Flynn, I think is what his name is. Yeah, Flynn, that he only has a certain amount of time, I think it's like 4 minutes, before they're coming in and they're dropping bombs and they're going to blow the entire town to smithereens, basically with fire. Everything is going to be eradicated. If you want to get out now. And they get pinned down by a sniper who is just shooting people. And Doyle knows this. He says that he's no marksman. He's panicked, and he tells the one guy, he's like, "Well, you're gonna run in a zigzag. He's not a marksman, but I am, so I'm gonna take him out. But you gotta go and run in a zigzag." And then the dude's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're crazy. And then Andy just fucking does it. Has no disregard for safety and for his life. He's like, fuck this. I'm just going to run. And then luckily, Doyle was able to kill him. But that's not the point. That's not the point. Andy should have fucking not done that. Like that kid I was talking about in the opening scene. That's what that reminded me of.
I feel that.
But yeah, you want to talk about the firebombs?
I mean, I don't have anything super specific to say about it, other than the scene was like heart wrenching, and
It was heart wrenching, and it was also stylistically cool with the giant fireball in the tunnel. But that was, I just wanted to make a quick mention of that. Because the next thing that I have is my favorite scene,
the
which
helicopter.
is the helicopter. That was my favorite kill.
I mean, that was very cool.
Well, and it's also really interesting because at this point, people in their group have died. And Flynn's like, well, you need to come to this location and I'll pick you up. And then they're all hunkered down because there's a bunch of infected there. And then Flynn's like, Doyle, who the fuck are these people? It was supposed to be you. I'm not taking them. You need to ditch them. And then the one guy jumps on the helicopter, the leg. And he's like, take me with you. And the dude's like, get off my helicopter. And as he's, flying around trying to shake him off, Doyle's like, you got to do something because we're about to be dead. And then Flynn comes to the rescue and angles the chopper and just obliterates everybody.
All the zombies.
All the zombies. Yeah, not them, but like all the infected are obliterated, which I thought was like really cool.
It was.
That was my favorite kill.
I really like that. My only issue with that is like I'm pretty confident that that's not how helicopter blades work.
I mean, yeah, but it's also a generic zombie movie.
Right. I mean, no, I can suspend my disbelief, but the reason it's not my favorite is because, like,
it's not realistic.
Yeah, is because of the lack of realism compared to other places that I felt like it was more realistic.
Right, which I can understand that. But what's the next scene you got?
So the next scene I've got is like a little bit further down. It's after the chemical attack and everything. So do you have anything for that? Like, do you want to talk about Doyle's death? Because I don't have that on here because I wasn't like, I was just like, eh.
Well, I thought that it was a very powerful, because before that, when they're on the carousel, he talks to Scarlett and he's like, well, why are you doing this? And she says, because your life and my life mean nothing compared to theirs, because that is the key to our survival. If you want to beat this infection, it is in those kids, likely because their mom had the blood to be able to be immune to it, like, or the not the blood, the genetic, like, chromosome or whatever genetic disorder.
I mean, it wasn't described. It's just there's a genetic reason that they're immune, likely linked to the eyes.
Yeah, her eyes were two different fucking colors, and she's immune to it. That's basically whatever that is.
Yeah.
And she says that it's probably likely in the kids, so we need to save them at all costs, which is what Doyle does when, the flamethrower guys are coming and the car won't start. So he's like, I'm going to go give it a push. You need to just go. Push off the clutch when I say. And then, he gets lit on fire, turns into the Human Torch. And, I mean, that was like really, it was a impactful scene because the kids, you can see the kids are like visibly upset.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to mention that Scarlett's the only person alive at this point. Everybody else that has been on this trip with these kids are fucking dead.
Scarlett, Andy, and Tammy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was like out of the adults, because I said the kids.
Right, but you said she's the only person alive. I'm just making sure. I'm just letting you know.
She's the only person alive out of the original group of people that started on this adventure with these fucking kids.
Fair enough.
So their disease is they kill people. Everybody that's close to them fucking dies.
Yeah, I mean, so it appears.
Yeah, because the next thing that I have is the car in the tunnel, which I thought was a fun little callback to the first movie, which it might not have been, but
it felt like it.
It felt like it because it specifically goes over the stairs and the bumps and then stops, in the tunnel. So it could have been a fun little Easter egg. I might be looking too much into it, but I really, really enjoyed that.
So the next scene I want to talk about was actually when Scarlett was leading Tammy and Andy down the stairs with the bodies.
Good, because I was going to talk about the night vision scene from Silence of the Lambs as well.
I mean, yeah. So basically, Scarlett's leading them down with night vision, and it's downstairs, and you can see like a bunch of corpses,
which the kids can't see. I think that makes it better.
Right. You can, I mean, you can see it through the night vision
You can. Scarlett's the only one that can see him. Tammy and Andy can't. Which
initially.
Initially. Until they trip.
Right, but while they're going down the stairs, Scarlett's trying to lead them in like a logical way to where they aren't stepping on as many bodies and stuff, and then they end up falling. And when they fall, Scarlett quickly runs down the stairs and gets jumped by a zombie, I would imagine. And this is honestly one of my favorite kills too, because it's a first-person perspective of Tammy getting, or I'm sorry, not Tammy, of Scarlett getting her face beaten in.
By Don.
Yeah,
By
with
Dawn.
with like through the night vision, and it was just like super gruesome, but also really cool.
Yeah, I did want to talk about that shot because I thought that was really cool. That whole scene through the night vision was cool. I liked that they did that, but I think the cherry on top is, like you said, when she gets her face beat in by Dawn, and you can see it through the night vision. So
Yeah,
and go a little POV.
yeah.
And then I think the next thing I have is Don's death at the hands of his own daughter.
So I mean, I don't have that written down. The next thing I have written down is just bro, and it's the ending.
Well, I mean that too, but I think it's very important to talk about that. She kills her own dad.
And then her brother, who thinks he's infected, is fleeing because he's scared.
And she runs after him, which sets it up for the whole thing because we knew that this was going to happen. But she goes and is chasing after him. And even in this situation, it's like she knows that there's a good chance that she is going to die because she's seen what this virus does. But, she tells her brother, we stay together no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is why I think the pizzeria scene was important, because it's the first scene to me that shows Tammy's personality and her like protective nature.
Yeah, that she's the new caregiver of her brother.
Exactly.
And then eventually they get to the stadium and Flynn's like going to shoot him.
But then decides not to.
Yeah, because he's like, where's everybody else? Where's Doyle? And she's like, it's just us. And at that moment, he realized every single person that went with these kids died. So he should probably say, fuck them kids and leave.
But he doesn't.
But he doesn't. Because he takes them on a plane ride and then a little helicopter. And they fly off and everything is all good and peaceful.
Yeah, so Doyle tells him to fly them over the channel, which is basically going from UK into mainland Europe.
Right, because he wants them to get away from the infection. Because at that point, Andy had not been bit. So he needs to be able to get him away, and we need to find a cure for this, and we'll be able to blow up Britain, because that's basically what the United States military was doing at that point. So, but he flies him over, and what happens?
So basically, Andy is infected, but he is not showing the symptoms. So they get flown over the channel, and then it's basically the end of the movie. But
Yes.
it shows like a news broadcast in French that's like basically the beginning of 28 Days Later.
Well, yeah, it shows the helicopter.
Yeah.
That's been down, and you can tell this is the same helicopter because it has the note in the picture from his kid. So you know that it's his, and then the news report of you see the Eiffel Tower in the background. So now it has spread.
Yeah, exactly.
And
To
there's
mainland Europe.
So it's going to basically spread across the world at this point.
Yeah, one would be safe to assume.
Right.
But I mean, that's basically the movie.
I felt like it didn't have as much character development as the first one, and I think that had to do a lot with how many characters there were.
I mean, that's fair.
I think that if it had been just Scarlett, Flynn, not Flynn, fuck him, Doyle, and Andy and Tammy, it would have been okay. Because it didn't really, if it had followed them, that would have been fine. Because it didn't really elaborate on the dad, on Dawn. It didn't elaborate on Alice at all. She was just kind of there. The whole point of her being in there was just reinfect everybody.
Basically.
And I think everybody else was kind of just okay. Because it really focuses, and it doesn't even really focus on Scarlett as much as it focuses on Doyle in the earlier parts of the movie.
Fair.
So I would say that if it had been a little bit less of a cast like the first one, the character developments would have been a lot better, which holds it back from like a 5 for me. again, that's just my opinion. As you can tell, I really do hold the first one in high regards because of that. So I do have a little bit of bias when I go into this.
Well, I thought this one was pretty good. Like I said, I think that the broader scope of this one makes it more enjoyable for me because while I like character development and I really like Danny Boyle's vision, his directorial vision for the first one, like the really quick cuts and like the more grainy film quality.
The chaos and the confusion.
Yeah, the chaos and the confusion. Like I really like that, but this one seems more like crisp and clean and like I'm not sure what like the right terminology is, but this one feels like a newer movie, which isn't necessarily a benefit or a plus for me, but it has like a wider scope. It has a little bit cooler like graphics, like when the city gets firebombed.
Yes, that did look a lot better than it probably would have. And well, I mean, I don't know. The explosion in 28 Days Later was pretty good. I'm pretty confident that was real.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was a fan. I thought this one was slightly better. Like I think they're both really good and about the same. I think that the first one has better character development. I think this one is darker overall, or at least I felt like this one has like a darker overall like tone.
Yes, I think so too. I think that all of them have darker tones, and it's not a happy, upbeat movie. There is, and especially with this one where you're like, oh, the kids are surviving.
Fuck them kids.
Fuck them kids.
They basically end the world.
Yes, those kids. Those kids literally do end the entire fucking world. What would you do in that situation?
Oh, what do you mean?
Would you have like took them across the channel?
Oh, probably.
You would have been like, okay, that's fine.
Well, I mean, I would have been like, oh, these are poor defenseless children. I need to get them to safety.
I mean, that's fair.
Like, it would have been one thing if I knew he was bit, knew he was infected, but like, he doesn't know that he's asymptomatic.
I mean, that's fair.
Like, I would almost 100% do that if I had like a helicopter and was in a position to. Like, I would have ended the world, but, you know.
And accidentally into the world.
Yeah, exactly. It would be me thinking I'm doing the right thing. It wouldn't be, ill-intentioned, malicious bullshit.
Like, fuck them kids.
Yeah.
So, what would your recommendations be?
So, if you like this movie, I would recommend, honestly, like, it's a different vibe, but it's kind of got, like, a similar vibe at parts, like Doom and stuff.
Wait.
Doom.
What?
Like, with The Rock. I have a similar, like, okay, hear me out.
I don't want to, but okay.
Hear me out. So, in this, like, Doyle is one of the main characters. And his character is, like, badass soldier type dude. Kind of. And it reminds me of, like, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's character in the Doom movie. Like, the vibes the characters give off, to me, are very similar. And it's basically, like, small teams of people avoiding monsters in Doom. It's, like, kind of zombies, but more like demons.
It is demons. They opened up a portal to hell
Right.
on Mars.
I'm aware of the story.
Then why do you think it's
Like I said, they have a similar vibe. The vibe that The Rock's character and the vibe that Doyle's character put off is very similar.
okay? I can't back that one up at all. I 100% disagree with that. But
No, that's fine.
I mean,
And I would also recommend like other zombie movies. Like if you like this is pretty much top tier zombie movie.
yeah, then it's a standard zombie movie.
Like, Day of the Dead,
Dawn of the Dead,
Dawn of the Dead.
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Basically, pretty much like if you like zombie movies, you'll like this one. I think this is higher up on the ladder of zombie movies.
Like a Reanimator.
I mean, I don't hold Reanimator in super high regard, but I don't think it's bad.
That's okay. That's a topic for after we get off of here.
Is it?
I like Reanimator a lot.
That's okay.
I have a patch because I like it so much on a jacket that is nothing but movies. So
what would you recommend?
really any zombie movie, because I feel like this is a pretty
Shaun of the Dead?
I mean, I'm not in. I
Cooties?
guess if you want to, yes, but no. I would say any like military style zombie movie, because that's kind of what this felt like more than anything.
So you don't see how Doom could be kind of seen as a military style zombie movie?
No, and what ruins it for me more than anything is I love Doom. I don't like the movie because the movie is bad. There is no Doom guy. And the last part where for like 3 solid minutes it's nothing but a first person Doom shooter.
I thought that was really cool.
That was stupid as fuck.
So the first person Doom shooter kind of reminds me of the roof scene where they're shooting civilians, because a majority of it is looking through the scope at people getting gatted.
Yeah, but the impacts are
It's
a lot heavier in 28 Weeks Later as opposed to a dude who just like points and go doom to doom doom to doom doom to doom to doom.
28 Weeks Later is definitely a better movie than Doom, but
Yeah.
Doom had elements that reminded me of 28 Weeks Later.
I don't know if I can ever trust your opinion on a review ever again after saying that.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to.
You're no longer allowed to do the recommendations.
Okay, that's fine.
So for all of our listeners at home, if you watch the Doom movie because Bailey recommended it as a movie to watch because you enjoyed this one, I would like you to tell us whether or not he was right or very wrong.
Okay, but I want to make a stipulation that you're not allowed to have an opinion if you haven't seen Doom recently. If you watched it when it first came out like 15 years ago, your opinion on whether or not these two are similar is irrelevant.
I saw Doom like 2 years ago,
Okay.
and I don't think they're the same at all.
I mean, like I said, I feel similar vibes, but it's okay. I'm wrong.
I
I can
would-
accept that.
Well, no, because what you're saying, I would say Resident Evil is a lot like 28 Days Later
Yeah.
or 28 Weeks Later.
Yeah, Resident Evil, some of them have the same vibe. For sure.
But you're basing it all off of like a character vibe, and that's if you want to do that, you can take two movies that are completely polar opposites and put them together and be like, oh yeah, we're basing it because of this character vibe.
Okay, so then I would compare this movie to Stuart Little because Dawn's a fucking rat and Stuart Little's a fucking rat.
Exactly. Yeah, they have the same vibe.
Yeah.
See how that works? That's why I was like, I don't the whole
Like I said,
bigger picture.
I do no bigger picture wise no, but like the horror elements of 28 Weeks Later remind me of the horror elements of Doom because neither of them are scary. Like 28 Weeks Later is very unnerving, very hard to watch in parts,
for different reasons.
but not out of scary. And Doom is hard to watch in some parts, but not because it's scary.
Because it's bad.
Well, I mean,
It's shitty CGI, like when the wheelchair dude turns into the wheelchair monster.
that was cool.
It's bad. Anyway, we ain't gonna get into that. What do you have for some Bailey's Babbles?
So, we almost touched on it during the movie, and I'm really glad we didn't.
I love when we do that.
So I'm actually have you seen What If?
Yeah.
Disney's What If?
Yeah, I have the comics too.
So I'm gonna hit you with a what if right here.
Okay.
So, what if the infected didn't die out, and when the kids left, they ran into actual infected? How do you think that would have changed the movie? Do you think that that would have stopped District 1 from being taken, or do you think that the kids would have just died?
So
Or it doesn't even have to be that. What if their mom was never found? Do you think, like, how do you think the movie would have been played differently?
if their mom was never found, there
Like-
wouldn't have been an infection.
You don't think that they would have had like a you don't think they would have done like gone the scientist route where one of the scientists had the active infection that they found on a body and was able to like do something with it, and they were like, oh, I'm gonna mess
So you're saying if the mom wasn't the carrier,
yeah.
who would be the carrier?
Or how do you think it would have played out?
I guess I feel like that's kind of cheap to have the scientists do it.
Right, I mean, I agree that that would have been super cliche. Okay,
I would say that it would probably be better to infect a rat and then have a rat bite someone, and that's what starts the infection, was from like a rat or something, like some kind of animal re-invites it into the world.
that's
I think
fair.
that would be better than just the whole scientific route of the scientist trying to replicate it or whatever and then accidentally unleash the virus again, or experimenting on something and accidentally contract it because they're stupid. I don't know. I would say that if it wasn't the mom, I would say like rats or monkeys or something, some type of animal.
That just didn't die off from starvation from the infected and somehow made it to District 1.
Yes, or like it could even be a vulture that came down to eat the bodies and then accidentally ate an infected person and got some blood in their mouth, which caused it to become an
A carrier.
aviation type, like the bird flu. So now it's like the bird version of this, which then mutates into other things, which mutates into people and starts the whole cycle over again. That would be how I would think they would play it out, but that's just my opinion. So
That's fair. I mean, no, this is 100% like opinion.
right, but yeah, I mean, I would say that, I guess.
Okay, so what if? How do you think 28 weeks later would have been if it had continued with Cillian Murphy's storyline?
Shit,
You think so?
I couldn't because I don't count.
Yeah, I know that you don't think that the ending where he lived is like a valid ending.
I don't count that as the actual ending. I count the actual ending as the true ending where he dies. So it couldn't have, and it's the same argument I have for The Last of Us Part 2, where people are like, I can't believe Joel died. I'm glad Joel died.
Man, you're just spoiling shit.
That game has been out for so long. Who fucking cares?
It's only been
The
out for
internet-
like 4 years.
The internet literally spoiled it before it even came out.
I mean, that's fair.
Have you played it?
I have. I beat it.
Fucking hated it.
I didn't think it was bad. I don't know. There were parts where you like switch characters that I didn't like.
I hated playing half of the game as Abby, doing literally almost the exact same shit.
No, I agreed. That's the only part I didn't like.
If I had been in like new locations with Abby, I wouldn't have minded it. But the fact that I basically redid everything with only slight variations of stuff, I was like, this is fucking stupid.
No, I wholeheartedly agree.
And it wasn't short enough where they could get away with it like Resident Evil 2,
Yeah.
where you're playing through a different scenario. But anyway, I'm glad Joel died at the beginning of that movie, so that way, or beginning of that game, so that way it could be about Ellie, because his whole character arc and story came full circle by the end of the game.
Yeah.
And so there was no reason for him to be in the second game and be a major part of it.
I don't
But-
know.
Well, no, because the same thing with Cillian Murphy. His like Jim's character and well everybody's character, Hannah, Jim, and
That's why I thought Tammy was Hannah.
yeah. Well, I mean they all came full circle by the end of that movie. Having them in the second movie would have just been kind of pointless, and there wasn't anywhere to go with their character arc because they've already achieved it. So you need new people.
Right. I mean, no, I recognize that. That's why I'm what ifing. Like,
Yeah.
Do you think it would have been able to be a good movie had it just been a continuation, like exact same
No.
story,
No.
exact same story, everyone in District 1, but instead of it being a story about the potential vaccine, it's a story about the survivors from the first movie actually surviving it and making it to District 1.
No, because I don't give a shit about them.
You don't think that would have been cool?
No, not at all. Because again, their character story arcs have come full circle. I don't need any more time with them. I spent enough time with them. I need new people to care about because we can work with them.
I mean, no, that's fair. I don't disagree with you. I was just,
Yeah. No, I mean
It's-
that's like that's my personal feelings on it. So.
I spent like 30 minutes last night thinking about what ifs for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite one was the what if this movie was about Cillian Murphy again. And in my mind, it would be like him finding Andy
Mm-hmm.
and somehow knowing that he was like uninfectable. And it would have just been him becoming like doing badass stuff like he did at the end of 28 Days Later to protect Andy from like the whole U.S. government or the whole U.S. Army. Like, I don't know. In my mind, I just had a really like
That would have been a terrible movie.
silly and spectacular like thought.
I mean that's fair, but yeah, I think that would have been terrible.
No, I think it would have been super silly, but I also think it could have been fun.
Right. Yeah. Do you have anything else?
No, do not.
So I guess you want to end it.
Um,
Do you want to blow it up?
blow it up?
Blow up the world?
No, not specifically.
Oh, okay. You don't want to Fallout 3 it?
No, not really. But are you good? Do you have anything else?
Not that I can really think of. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. Go watch it. Best zombie movie ever is 28 Days Later.
Don't watch the trailer.
Don't watch the trailer. Hopefully you liked this review. I do want to say that, we appreciate everybody who listens to us.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. This has been Bailey.
Well, hold on. I'm not done yet because I do want to say one more thing. With this upcoming episode's release, we will probably have unveiled it by now, but we have a new logo. So that has been in the works for a while now. And then hopefully we also have one more surprise that's coming up that will be incorporated in the next couple of episodes.
It's intro music.
Oh, he's gonna spoil it.
You spoiled the logo.
Yeah, that's fair. So, but by the time this comes out, hopefully both of those things will be out. And if not, you just got a sneak preview into our new life with logos and intro music. So, hopefully you enjoy the new logo and definitely enjoy the intro music. Which will probably also be the outro music. We haven't really discussed that, but anyway, this is the part where we would put like outro music out, so you can just start imagining it and just imagine like the coolest thing in the world.
Kind of creepy.
On repeat.
Yeah.
Backwards. Because that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the whole thing backwards.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah, we'll do it. So, anyway, this has been Two Idiots, One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
Bye.
Bye.